Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of Calling All Titans, I want to talk about what I'm calling the Mercenary Titan. I recently made a discovery that I found fascinating and wanted to share with everyone. AEG was kind enough to allow me to share this story with you all. The Titans event kit has arrived with 16 new Titans, and Paul had previously mentioned that there were other Titans in development that got left on the cutting room floor. The Mercenary Titan was drastically different from all others because it did not belong to any player. Any player could pay a price to affect this Titan, opening up a whole new avenue of gameplay. And that Titan was Cthulhu, codenamed Cthulhu Alternate during playtesting, but I'm going to give him a new name, Cthulhu. Let me just say that if there is ever going to be a Titan who belongs to no one, Cthulhu is the perfect choice. There is a common supervillain trope where the lackey is discarded and killed immediately after they are no longer useful, particularly when summoning a being into their world. Cthulhu fits that theme perfectly. However, this particular attempt did not work out, and from my perspective, it's easy to see why. To summon Cthulhu, any player could remove one of their minions from the game. Cthulhu would be played on or moved to that base and would have a summoning attack. Each player with a minion there would draw a madness card. Additionally, players draw a madness card if they start their turn with a minion on that base. Madness is obviously bad as it degrades your score, so you'll want to get rid of it. However, each time a player draws or plays a madness card, Cthulhu grows in power. This could be potentially twice per turn, therefore Cthulhu can grow quickly. This is terrible because Cthulhu can actively win a base. If Cthulhu has the most power on a base, power which contributes to the breaking of the base, no one gets any points, and all minions there go back in the box instead of the discard pile. As the Titans event kit predates Oops, this would have been the first chronological appearance of the remove from game mechanic. Additionally, it would be the exception to what I said in our lightning round Q&A about Viking Funeral, that it only happens to cards you own. Cthulhu would allow other players to lose their minions indirectly, and I think that is ultimately what started Cthulhu's downfall. Inevitably, at some point for some players, this Titan would cause Smash Up to degrade into intentionally trying to screw over your opponents, and that hurts the game. Bases are meant to be smashed and won, but the allure of getting Cthulhu to win will be a negative influence. First, let's talk about the consequence of Cthulhu winning. It's fairly uncommon that a deck is completely depleted. Only factions with the right card draw will do it unless the game is taking forever. Unless you have card recycling, being removed from the game won't be much different from being discarded, since you'll never deplete your deck anyway. But the bigger problem is that no one scores points, which means a lot of effort was wasted and the game is no closer to completion. In fact, it is probably further from completion because all the madness drawn to power up Cthulhu lowers everyone's scores. One common complaint I hear about the game is that Smash Up takes too long. FYI, it doesn't, but I can easily see this making the game unbearably long if bases are breaking and no progress is being made. Because the game would take longer, suddenly your deck might be depleted after all, and those minions removed from the game do not make it back into your deck again. This would make it harder to break bases with less cards, with Cthulhu having a greater chance to win, which repeats the process. Though the game may never reach this level of degradation, I can guarantee you that some players will, consciously or unconsciously, attempt to achieve it. I see this as being particularly problematic in multiplayer games. If you've ever played Emotep, you know that you can use your turns to make sure someone else doesn't get their maximum reward on their turn, but this prevents you from gaining points yourself. So who takes one for the team and gives up their turn to minimize another player? While this is a fascinating concept in Emotep, I'm not sure it works in Smash Up because it means sacrificing one of your minions to do so. This can result in having one player constantly spamming Cthulhu, while player 2 has no interest in sacrificing minions. To prevent mutually assured destruction, player 3 is forced to be the one to sacrifice, leaving 2 with an extreme advantage. I also think that there are ways to intentionally abuse the system. Kaiju are obviously better equipped to survive Cthulhu since it only targets minions. But movement and destruction factions have a lot of advantages. You can move yourself off of the base to avoid Cthulhu and let your opponents suffer alone. Destruction can keep the power at the base smaller to keep Cthulhu in play as long as possible. I can see a card like Things Best Not Known being used to suddenly buff up Cthulhu a lot on a completely different base, causing it to break and hurting opponents. If I were playing elves and losing on a base, I would consider using my runaway cards to rearrange minions so that Cthulhu is winning. As a Titan with no owner, Cthulhu cannot be targeted by cards like Into the Time Slip, so it's either clash, break the base quickly, or suffer the consequences. How do you get rid of Cthulhu? Winning a clash might be difficult because you are disincentivized from playing minions there since you might lose more of them. Cthulhu also has the potential to gain power every turn, which eclipses the power boost of most mobile Titans who only gain power once per turn. Having minions on the base also means gaining madness, which makes it even harder to clash and win. In short, Cthulhu would completely change the way we approach Smash Up, and in this case, it probably wouldn't be for the better. Players would be incentivized to break bases quickly, regardless of outcome, in order to avoid getting nothing for their efforts. While I like the idea of an ownerless Titan, the particular abilities seem to take Smash Up too far into the realm of Take That. Those elements have always been a part of the game, but they were always in service of breaking bases. Cthulhu just seems to bring about mutually assured destruction. What Cthulhu would bring is increased tension and an increased sense of player interaction, but at too high a cost. As a result, the Titan was scrapped for now, but it wouldn't be surprising if another attempt was made in the future to make a controllerless Titan work. According to playtesters, the current approach was not fun, but the question becomes, what might work instead? I could definitely see a concept where a player recruits a Titan that they don't own and doesn't belong to any faction. The Titan would be ownerless, but not controllerless. Maybe another player can pay to take control and the Titan acts like an ignoble, where you are never really sure whose side the Titan is on. I would think that any solution would have to accentuate the price you pay rather than the negative consequences of the attack, as it would make Smash Up too much of a take-that game when it is area control at its core. To emphasize that area control, maybe an approach is to temporarily block a certain base each turn. If you've ever played Quadropolis, there is a neutral urbanist that gets moved each turn and restricts where a player can play, and this could be a potentially intriguing alternative to power creep. However, it could make movement factions too powerful, so I'm really not sure what the solution is going to be. This is obviously a new challenge for Smash Up, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. What would you like to see in a controllerless Titan? Do you even like the idea at all? And what would have been your reactions to this Titan as it was currently written? Let me know in the comments. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.